anybody, like, my hypoglycemia, the psychological side effects are the thing that affect my life the most. So just want to give you maybe a few tips on how to deal with the psychological effects, because my blood sugar drops to 1.9 if I let it, and I am absolutely useless. I am depressed, I'm suicidal, I'll probably scream at you and possibly tell you to go away because I'm about to punch you in the head. My psychological side effects are pretty bad. Like, I can't function normally if I don't stay on a diet. I have found, because my hypoglycemia is so bad, and I was only diagnosed in 2010, so I suppose I want to give you some advice from someone who's dealing with it a lot later in life. Being diagnosed with hypoglycemia meant that I had to all of a sudden look at my life and go, well, maybe it's not about my childhood or the thing that person did to me last week, or what my mother did to me 20 years ago, or whatever. If your hypoglycemia is that bad and you're not treating it, your blood sugar is pretty much always going to be low. You're always going to be depressed. You're always going to have negative thinking. You're not going to be looking at things. I like to call it putting on a pair of crap-coloured glasses. For me, for the first, say, 30 years of my life, I wore crap-coloured glasses. And so I didn't know any different. I didn't know any better. This was my whole life. If you're a person who's that bad, then your symptoms the cause gets lost in the symptoms. You are so busy dealing with the symptoms that you can't even look outside of that, because you have no idea what it would be like to feel better, to see the world from the right set of glasses. So for me, I had to by the time I was diagnosed, I was rock bottom. I had chronic fatigue, I was severely depressed. I had no other choice. I either continue eating this food and keep doing this and wake up in the morning, drag myself out of bed, try and get myself through the day, fall into bed exhausted again, wake up at 2 in the morning anxious, wondering why I'm awake, worrying about my life, getting wrapped up in all the problems that I thought was with my life, when really it was just my psychological setup and the way that I'd learnt to think over all these years. So for me, I was addicted to a lot of things. I was addicted to sugar, I was addicted to dairy, I was addicted to weed, I was addicted to marijuana, I was addicted to cigarettes. Probably a few other things.
Do you think you had an addictive personality?
Well, by then I did have an addictive personality. The problem with hypoglycemia is it gives you an addictive personality if you don't treat it, because your brain works out pretty quickly what gives you instant energy. Your brain's not interested in what is going to give you sustained energy. Your brain just wants the easiest way out, and that is sugar, caffeine, alcohol, cigarettes. Whatever your brain has worked out gives you instant energy, your brain is going to make you crave for that. When your blood sugar starts dropping, that is when you're going to start craving sugar, lollies, cigarettes, alcohol, marijuana, God help, cocaine, ice, whatever it is that's your vice, that your brain is going to call for that constantly. You can't live like that. You can't function like that. You can't just, get up, go to work, look after your children, when all you can fear in your head is, I need a cigarette, I need a cigarette, I need a cigarette, I need a lolly, I need a lolly, I need a lolly. So you need to, for me, I had to learn to think differently. I also had to look at food as a source of energy for my body, and only a source of energy. Food is my medicine now. Food is not my friend anymore. Food used to be my best friend. Whenever I felt down, sugar was there to make me feel better. Sugar was always there to give me comfort, or food, a big milkshake, or whatever I was allergic to, which I was addicted to by now. Food was always there, it always made me feel better, because of course it lifted my blood sugar, and I felt psychologically, I felt better again, but not for long. And I'd be calling for another milkshake or another lolly, or more marijuana, or more cigarettes, or alcohol even, and those things in themselves were making me feel more depressed. So I had to, it's a psychological battle too. You have to look at food differently. Food is not your friend anymore. You have to look at it like an addiction. You cannot eat these things anymore, because otherwise you will just constantly think about them. This is why, addicts are addicts. They don't understand what their body is asking for. Their brain doesn't care what the body really needs. The brain just calls for what it really wants, and that's the easiest way out. So addicts are addicts because all they can think about is more of that, and you can't live like that, and you've got no way of fighting it, particularly if you're in an environment where your parents have it and they've passed it on to you, and your grandparents have it, and every generation down the line has been eating badly, got stuck into bad habits. The hypoglycemia got lost generations ago. Now it's just now it's society's labelling you. Your kids are just ADD. They need to be on Ritalin. Your kids are just naughty or whatever. Your parents don't know any different because they think the same. So therefore you're born into in the very environment that you need to stay away from to control your condition and have a fighting chance of actually treating it. So all I can say is it's learning to think differently. It's learning to look at food as just medicine, and look at whenever you start craving lollies or sweet things, you have to go, right, my blood sugar's dropping, I need to eat protein. I need to eat protein now. I need to have a piece of chicken or something. I know it's very hard to resist something that your body's craving for, but it can be done, and it's also preparation as well. You need to have something there to grab when you have those sugar cravings. Or if you have sugar cravings, get sugar-free lollies. Make up some cordial with some glycerin and low joule cordial in it. So you're still getting the sweetness you're craving for, but it's not setting off your pancreas and giving you that high that then crashes down to the low later on. It's about being prepared and also recognising that a certain mind, that a certain way of thinking that you're starting to have is your condition. It is not anything else. I mean, I've found it particularly hard to convince people who have hypoglycemia and caught up in the psychological effects. A lot of people can't admit that their brain's been playing tricks on them their whole life. You've got to be humble enough to go, all right, I've been letting my brain control me all these years. Your brain is your brain. You control your brain. Your brain doesn't control you. You can control your brain. You can tell yourself, no, I don't want lollies, I need protein. You can eat protein, and you can actually change the way you think. Over time you start to, the more disciplined you get, the more experience you have with it, the quicker you can recognise, okay, I'm starting to crave lollies, I need to eat. It's time to have my protein snack. And like I said, if just because you have a craving doesn't mean you can't satisfy it. Just don't use real sugar. Use artificial sugar, low joule stuff. Make your own biscuits, make your own cakes, so that when you do have those sugar cravings, you've got something there that you can eat that's not going to affect you in the long term later on. Because anything that you do in the short term is going to affect you in the long term. You have to think about long term, because it won't just affect you, in 5 minutes or 2 hours. The effects may come 24 hours later. For me, I'm allergic to dairy and gluten and yeast. So I pretty much can't eat anything. And when I do, like I had a cupcake a couple of days ago, I was cranky for the whole next day. And then for the next 2 days, I just felt tired and sluggish. So for me, I eat it, and I wish for the next 3 days, I wish I hadn't eaten it. But I still eat it sometimes because the craving is that bad, and I find myself, I've run out of lollies, or I've got no protein snack and I've gone and done something stupid. It doesn't matter how long you've been a hypoglycemic and how much experience you have, you will still, like Claire said, you'll still fall off the wagon if you don't keep yourself prepared at all times with some other alternative. Otherwise, you're just going to go for what your brain is screaming for. And you know how strong your craving is. That's why it's a craving, and that is what leads to addiction. If you consume it, your body calls for it more and more. You find it harder and harder to stop, and then all of a sudden you're addicted to it again. Which is why, like Dr. Samra said, all drug addicts I think have hypoglycemia, because It's that brain's mindset that you can't resist. I mean, everybody here knows. Like you can't have a packet of Tim Tams in the house because you don't just eat one. You eat the whole packet in one sitting, and then you feel guilty. And then I'm a big fat glutton. How can I eat a whole packet of Tim Tams in one sitting? What a pig. You know, and then you're beating yourself up, then you get depressed about that, then you eat more to make yourself feel better, and you're addicted to Tim Tams again. Which is why it's so important to just cut it all out. If you start, don't just cut everything out because it's too hard. You'll fall off the wagon the next day. Cut them out one at a time. Have alternatives. There's, make biscuits that are still, they can be as sweet as you like, but just don't have anything with sugar. There's plenty of sweet alternatives out there. So, that's what I wanted to say anyway.
Thank you.